Before we get started, we have a little announcement for you all. We have a YouTube channel.
Yes, which may be obvious to some of you who are watching on our YouTube channel, if you found it already somehow. But yeah, we wanted to let you know that we have one. It is Conspiracy Couple Podcast on YouTube.com. You know where YouTube is.
Yes.
But yeah, we also wanted to let you know kind of the plan with our YouTube channel. Because we do want to start doing video podcasts. It's something that some people have asked for. And so I would say we're starting to dabble in that. So for this one, we do have this intro is going to be on video. Yes, hello. The rest of this podcast is going to be audio only. You can still listen to it all on YouTube, but it's just going to still be audio. We have a firm plan for our next podcast to be on audio, the whole thing. So that'll be our very first...
You mean video?
Yes, sorry. The whole podcast next week, or in 2 weeks, our next episode.
On Halloween
will be a full video podcast on YouTube. Obviously, you can still get your podcasts on Apple and Spotify and all that stuff if you prefer it that way. But if you are hoping to watch, you can watch that. But the big thing here is that because we're still kind of new to this and learning how to do it, not all of our podcasts are going to be on video. We're going to try and go for like at least every other episode is going to be on video. It'll kind of just depend on time and if there's a lot of editing or anything I need to do. But yeah, we're going to definitely try and get more video podcasts out there. So starting next week, we're going to have a video podcast.
Not next week.
Yeah, starting next episode. Starting next episode, we're going to have a video podcast. No promises on when the next video podcast will be, but all of our podcasts will start being posted on YouTube. So you should totally subscribe to our YouTube channel, Conspiracy Couple Podcast. And yeah, that's it. So let's go ahead and get to the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the Conspiracy Couple Podcast. I'm Marisa.
And I'm Ethan.
And today we have another really weird and interesting topic to discuss with you guys.
Cool.
But before we get started, as always, make sure that you're following us on all of our social medias. We have Instagram, which is Conspiracy Couple, and that's where we post all of our updates on new episodes, pictures that we reference in our episodes, and of course, the occasional photo of ourselves and Domino the Conspiracy Cat.
You're more likely to get a photo of Domino than you are of us.
Yeah, she's 100 times cuter than we are.
That's very true.
You also can shoot us a DM if you want to get in touch with us, or you can send us an email, conspiracycouple22@gmail.com. 22@gmail.com.
Numbers 2 and 2.
We also have a Twitter. On Twitter, we're ccpodcast22, and that's just another place to get updates from us. And we also are working on getting our episodes recorded and posted on YouTube.
Which you just heard about.
You just heard about that.
So
no surprise, we're working on that.
If you somehow missed the first minute of this podcast,
then we have a YouTube if you missed the first minute of the podcast.
But if you made it this far, you've probably heard that part.
Yeah. And if you haven't,
go back and listen.
It's really not that much that you're going to be rewinding to.
No.
And if you like what you're hearing, make sure you share us with a friend, give us a shout out on social media, and leave us a nice 5-star review on your streaming platform of choice. We always love seeing those and sharing them on our stories as well. So that's all that I have for housekeeping. Do you have anything else?
Nope.
No.
Just
okay.
the YouTube.
I feel like it's been a hot minute since we sat down and recorded a podcast.
I don't remember when we
Maybe
recorded
it
our last
hasn't,
one.
but it feels like it's been a really long time.
I do not remember when we recorded the last one. What was the last one?
Denver Airport.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know when that was.
I don't know that one. Truthfully, I would say my memory in the last, month and a half is probably functioning at, the level of a 70-year-old woman.
That's fair.
I cannot remember anything.
Yeah.
I think that you can, ask me a question, and the next minute I'll just be like, I don't even recall that you said something to me.
Yeah, that definitely has been happening a lot. can confirm.
Like, Ethan will ask me to do something, and I'll be like, yeah, okay. And then I won't do it, and he'll be like, why didn't you do that? Like, wasn't so, did you tell me to do it? He's like, yeah, I literally just told you 2 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. And it's like 90% of things go into my head and then immediately leave my head.
Do you remember at the beginning of this week when I gave you a task? Do you remember what it was? I said, this is your task for the week.
Oh, was it to clean out the box of stuff in the bedroom?
Exactly. And you know what she did? She put something in the box. The box is still there, and it has more in it now.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you talk to me and I seem really out of it...
Well, you're doing better now.
It's because I am.
You're doing better now.
I'm doing better now. It's... this last week, I have been in a brand new rotation for my internship, and I've been doing food service in the hospital down the street from us, which is nice because, one, it takes 3 minutes to get there as opposed to 45. And I don't know what it is. I just feel like more competent. I've never done food service before, but I will say, after delivering food to patients, my feet, they were hurting real bad.
Yeah.
So anyone who works in the food service industry, I commend you.
Shout out to you.
Shout out to you. Yeah, yesterday I was working in the kitchen with the chef, and I spilled an entire tray of roasted vegetables on the floor. It was so embarrassing. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was like, I am so not cut out for this. I was doing so well, and then all of a sudden it just whoosh, all the vegetables down, all the water on the floor.
Goodbye.
So embarrassing. Like 5 minutes before the lunch rush started, I didn't even know where to go to clean things up. Everyone was just like, it's okay, Marissa. I'm like, I just spilled. And of course, I'm trying not to cry.
Naturally.
So I'm feeling competent, but I also am a klutz.
Well, that's something. That's more, I would say, returning to normal, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been kind of spacey, so honestly, we could have recorded this podcast a week ago, or we could have recorded it...
Well, it definitely wasn't a week ago, because it was posted 2 weeks ago.
That's true.
Because we're recording this on Saturday, the day before this goes up.
That's true. That's true.
So.
Also, we just wanted to give a little disclaimer. If you hear what sounds like a marching band...
Probably the drums.
It is a marching band, in fact.
They have shut down the street outside of where we live. We live right next to a high school and a middle school and an elementary school. Mm-hmm. And apparently there is some band competition going on right now. So there's some bands outside. They were practicing a little bit before we started. They seem to have stopped now, but it's entirely possible they will start again. Mm-hmm. So if you hear some drums or... whatever, you're not going crazy. We just are, that's what we're dealing with today.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's like a band, it says it's a band, like marching band competition or
I think
fair.
it is.
But it also looked like there were people in the bleachers for the football game.
There wouldn't be a football game. I'm sure that's probably where the competition's taking place, at the football stadium.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because how else are they going to fit all these bands in there? Especially because
they closed off our street. They could just put it on the street.
I think that's like to make sure that they closed it off so that people they could.
So that no one runs
around.
over the musicians.
Yeah. But like, I mean, they also I'm sure have COVID protocols they have to follow. So
there were a million.
There's a lot of bands here.
There were a million people on the stadium, like in the stadium.
Right, but it's outside, so they are technically okay.
I tried to go to the grocery store and.
You succeeded.
I succeeded in getting there, and then I was like driving. I literally drove around the block for like twice because I was like, "Oh, I'll just go in this way because this road's closed. Oh, that road is also closed. Oh, I'll just go around this back way. Oh, that road's also closed." So then I had to like drive around again, and eventually I got in. But it was just like, how am I supposed to get home? How am I supposed to live, laugh, love in these conditions?
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. So that's I think how I'm feeling. How am I supposed to live, laugh, love in these conditions? Amen. How have you been doing, Ethan?
I'm tired, but I'm fine. Still getting used to commuting and everything, but it's not bad. I mean, I don't mind the drive. But it's been busy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Commuting does give you a great opportunity to catch up on podcasts.
Ah, yes. If only I listened to our podcast.
If only.
I mean, I listened to it twice.
You do.
Once in doing it and another time in editing it.
Okay, does it count as listening to it if you're participating in it?
I think so.
I don't think it does.
I think it counts.
I don't know.
I hear the words you say and I hear the words I say. Is that not what you do when you listen to a podcast?
Yeah, but I don't know. It just feels like you're more participating than listening.
I mean, I am participating, but I'm also listening. You talk a lot during these podcasts. So,
yeah,
I do a lot of listening.
I'm the leader.
I know, I do a lot of listening, is what I'm saying.
I guess host is a better word.
I am. Yeah, you are. Yeah, host is a better word than leader. Anyway, my point being that I do listen to the podcast when I, just go over it and make edits. And edit out all the dumb things I say and leave in all the dumb things you say. Just kidding, I don't do that.
So,
wink, wink.
How do you have anything left that you say if you edit all the dumb stuff you say?
Got me there.
I know.
Can't argue with that logic.
Is that you got me there. Remember that catfish episode where the guy gets caught catfishing, or the catfish is caught and he's talking to another guy pretending to be a girl, and he's like,
I don't remember this.
Never mind. It was a meme. I'm sure he's like, you got me there, Taneve. I'm sure that you guys...
This is not a podcast where we describe memes.
No.
Let's just get in. Maybe we should get into the conspiracy.
Okay, we're going to get into the conspiracy. So today on the podcast, we are going to be discussing a very interesting phenomenon that I'm assuming you probably haven't heard of.
Well, let's find out.
So this theory essentially brings into question one of the most important things that we hold on to in our world. The concept of time.
Oh.
So this brings into question the passage of time.
Yeah.
So, are you intrigued?
I guess. You kept
sound
it
intrigued.
vague enough that
I know,
I have
you
no
sound
idea what you're talking about
intrigued.
still.
Today, we are going to be discussing something called the phantom time hypothesis.
Okay.
I
got nothing.
You don't know anything about that?
Nope.
Have you ever heard of it?
Nope.
Okay.
You know where my mind went immediately?
Where?
Danny Phantom.
He's a phantom.
Just because you said Phantom.
That's true, yeah.
What was that one YouTube video that I played all the time years ago? It was the Danny Phantom theme song mixed with another song. Do you remember what that was?
No.
Oh, it was like the words of Danny Phantom set to like a rock song or something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All my girls listening, did any other people listening have a crush on Danny Phantom when they were younger? Because I definitely did.
Oh, are you waiting for me to say?
No, I was asking our listeners.
Yeah, but then you looked at me.
Because you're sitting next to me.
But you just looked at me as if you were expecting me to answer.
Ethan didn't have a crush
I
on
did
Danny
not have
Phantom.
a crush on Danny Phantom.
Okay, we're going to go back to the phantom time hypothesis.
I wanted to be Danny Phantom. Anyway, keep going.
Okay. So what exactly is the phantom time hypothesis?
You tell me.
So essentially, it's the idea that the 300-year period around the Dark Ages never actually happened, and that they were totally fabricated.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to also give me a refresher course on what the Dark Ages, like what exactly happened during that.
Nothing really. That's why they think it didn't happen.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I could really sum up the Dark Ages in probably one word, and that is plague.
It was dark? Oh, is this is during the bubonic plague?
This was like one of the times during the bubonic plague.
Okay.
It came every couple hundred years.
Gotcha.
Devastated Europe.
Yeah, I know all about the bubonic plague. I guess I didn't know when the dark. So what is the time frame of the Dark Ages?
So it's from the 7th century to the 10th century AD, or from the years 614 to 911.
Okay, so like 300 years.
Yeah.
Basically.
I said 300 years.
Yeah, I know. 300 years starting around 600.
614 to 911. Yep.
Okay.
I was very scared as a child that I was going to get the bubonic plague.
Why?
Because I heard about it and I would we learned about it in school, you know? And I was like, oh my gosh, I could die from this. And I was also a hypochondriac. But I went home and told my mom and she's like, the plague isn't going around
The
anymore.
bubonic plague ended long
Actually,
time ago.
technically it didn't.
Oh.
There have actually still been cases of the Black Death or the bubonic plague. I think there was one in Colorado or something last year.
Big yikes.
But they always have a couple mini outbreaks in, I think underdeveloped nations. Because you could get it from rats and vermin and stuff.
Yeah, because that's how it spread back in the day.
But I was very scared that I was going to get the Black Plague, and my mom was just like, oh my gosh.
I've never once thought I was going to get the Black Plague.
My mom was like, I'm so over this.
Never in my life have I thought that I was going to get the Black Plague.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
I guess. My mom, I can't even imagine all the times over the years Susan was like, oh my goodness, how did this happen to me in regards to my hypochondria? I don't know. Anyways, so yes, we're talking about the time period from the 7th century to the 10th century. And this theory was proposed by German historians, specifically a man named Herbert Illig, after he went to a conference and learned about how it was apparently common practice for the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages to forge documents. So he then went on to influence Dr. Hans Ulrich Niemitsch, who wrote about the theory in a paper called Did the Middle Ages Really Exist?
Interesting.
So according to this theory, we are actually currently living in the year 1724 instead of 2021.
Okay.
Because if you take out those years, then we get...
Right, yeah.
So who does he think was responsible for all of this? So he believes that the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, along with Pope Sylvester II, with the help of Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII, added 297 years to the current year they were living in and declared that it was now 911 AD.
Okay.
Or he says 1000 AD, but things that I'll say after kind of call that into question.
Okay.
So why would they decide to do that?
Yeah, that's my main thought right now.
So he says that their reasoning is that they were all alive during the year 700 AD, but decided that they wanted to live in the year 1000 AD instead because it was a round number and therefore a better number, and it would enable Otto to rule into the new millennia. So he was like, I want to rule in the year 1000 AD. The problem is that it's only either 614...
I either have to live to be 300 years old.
And the lifespan of the time was definitely not 300 years old.
The lifespan, I'll tell you what, has not been 300 years old
since
for quite a while.
Yeah, since Methuselah, probably.
I don't know who Methuselah is.
From the Bible. He lived to be 969. Oh my gosh, you're a pastor and you don't know who Methuselah is? The oldest man that ever lived?
Not important.
Yes, it's important.
Not really.
Methuselah.
Anyway.
So this kind of confused me because some people said that it was 614 and then some people said it was 700 that this happened. So it could really be between, I'm just going to say 614. So he's like, hey, it's 614. I would like to be the ruler into the new millennia. The problem is that's a long time from now. So what are we going to do? Oh, we're just going to say that it's now the new millennia.
Okay.
And all these dumb peasants aren't going to know the difference.
Okay.
And so we're just going to bump up some time. And then he gets the Pope and Constantine VII to be like, yeah, man, I like this idea.
Okay.
I'll do this for you. So, one, it would help him to rule into the new millennia.
I guess.
Also, they would be able to create history to fit their agenda. And that would strengthen Otto III's claim to the Holy Roman Empire.
Okay.
So, you know the expression, history is written by the victors?
Yeah.
History is written by the people who made it up. This is what this is basically saying.
History is written by the people who decided that 300 years happened.
Correct. Yep. That's exactly it.
Yeah, you know, I don't understand why that's not a more common saying.
I don't know either, considering this event.
Considering this factual evidence we have.
Yeah. So, an example. I'm sure you've heard of Charlemagne the Great.
Yeah.
He was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
You are sounding like you don't really know who
No,
Charlemagne
I was trying
is.
to figure out a way to make a joke about Charlemagne the God.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Anyway.
You know, I have watched a lot of historical dramas, so I know who Charlemagne is.
Okay, anyway, keep going.
So if you want to know about history, watch historical dramas. They're not entirely accurate, but there we go. So, for example, Illig claims that Charlemagne did not exist, that he was not a real person, that he was created by this little trio to be used as a propaganda tool to help the Roman Empire.
Okay.
So, proponents of this theory suggest that Charlemagne was created by Otto to essentially be this, like, magnified, idyllic version of himself.
Okay.
So he, like, basically wrote, like, a fan fiction about himself.
That's super cool.
Yeah, he's like, what if I was, like, way cooler?
That's like every book I ever wrote, or book in quotes, I guess, I ever wrote as a child, where every main character's name was Ethan. But they were, like, cooler or better in some way. Or, like, when I was a kid playing, like, video games, and I'd make my main character Ethan, but then I'd, like, make
You
him
still make them named Ethan.
But now I make them more realistic. Because Ethan's then would be, like, 6'5", 290 pounds of muscle. Now when I play video games, I make them much more realistic, and they're 6'2", 190 pounds of muscle, which is 100% what I am like.
And other things, like water.
No, it's just all muscle. I don't have any water in my butt. No, it's muscle and graphics.
That makes sense, yeah. Yeah, no, when I would write, I would basically, like, make it me, but prettier, older, and more liked by boys. And usually I would pick a name that I wish my mom would pick for me.
Like Jezebel.
Yeah. No, I always said Bethany. I don't know.
What?
I don't know.
Bethany?
Yeah, when I was like 10, I really wished that my name was Bethany.
Interesting.
And now I'm quite content with Marissa now.
I'm glad your name isn't Bethany, because then it would have been Bethany Barkey.
That would have been bad. You know, alliteration can be cute, but that just doesn't sound very cute to me. Anyways, so Charlemagne doesn't exist.
According to this guy.
According to this guy.
I forgot his name.
Herbert Illig.
Herb.
So some people actually think that Charlemagne accomplished way too much in his lifespan, and that there's no way one person could have done everything attributed to him.
What did he accomplish?
Well, let's just go on the Google.
That's not a part of your research?
I don't...
I feel like that would have been my go-to.
Charlemagne, former king of the Franks.
The Franks.
They later became the German Empire. What Charlemagne was famous for? Charlemagne the Great, or Charles the Great.
Charles Lemaine.
Founded the Holy Roman Empire, stimulated European economic and political life, and fostered the cultural revival known as the Carolingian Renaissance.
That sounds very vague.
The major accomplishments of Charlemagne include developing the rules of the feudal system, encouraging reading and writing throughout his empire, developing commerce with a unified monetary system, and the unification of all Germanic peoples into a single kingdom through his crusades, which sought to convert all. Oh, I gotta click on this link.
I don't know if this is interesting enough. I kind of got bored.
I'm sorry.
He doesn't seem like he did anything.
He sought to convert all. I'm thinking to Catholicism.
Anyway.
Oh, yeah. Catholicism.
Anyway.
So he basically, he was a pretty big deal, this Charlemagne the Great.
He did a lot of unifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Supposedly.
If he existed. We don't know he existed.
Exactly.
He did too much unifying, we think.
And he lived for 300 years.
No, he didn't.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Charlemagne had a regular lifespan.
I'm just kidding.
Let's see. Charlemagne was... When was he born? Oh, that's when he was buried.
Buried.
His spouse's name was Lutgard.
What?
I don't know what that means.
I think it's probably a Frank name. A Frankish thing?
Well, he died in 814.
So how long did...
I'm looking for it.
Once Carhorn is going on.
His coronation was this Christmas of the year 800.
That's his coronation now.
Yeah, I'm trying to find his birth.
He was only a king for 14 years?
Well, they didn't really live for long.
800 to 814 though. Maybe that is a lot that he did in that time.
So he was born... the way they write the dates is different. So he was born April 2nd, 748. And he died January 28th, 814.
Wait. So he became king when he was in his 60s?
No.
Wait,
he became king of the Franks. This is on Wikipedia. Oh my goodness.
It's a dog.
That's a weird sounding dog. So he was the eldest son of Pepin the Short. And
Pepin the Short? What a great name.
And Bertrada of Laon, born before their canonical marriage. Oh.
So he's an illegitimate child.
He is, in fact, an illegitimate child. Pepin the Short's illegitimate child.
Ah, Pepin the Short's got game.
Pepin the Short and Bertrada of Laon. He became king of the Franks in 768. So he was 20 when he became king. Initially,
768, and then he died in 814.
Yes. Initially as co-ruler with his brother Carloman the First.
Carloman? Charlemagne and Carloman?
His name was... He was born...
This is not that interesting. We can move on.
I think this is interesting.
Okay.
And then his brother Carloman died in 771, and then he became the sole ruler.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So he reigned for a while then.
Yeah.
768 to 814. I mean, at least that's when he died. So.
Yeah. Should we go to the section called Wives, Concubines, and Children?
That's fine. I think we can move on.
I'm kind of curious now.
Let's move on. Do that on your own time.
Wow, he has a long... Look at this. Look at him scrolling.
That was kind of what they did back then.
Look at this.
I see. Let's move on. This is not going to be interesting for people who are listening.
Listen to what his son's name is. Pepin the Hunchback.
Why? That's rude.
I know. That was from his first relationship with Himiltruda. And
okay, let's just keep it going.
She was a concubine.
Let's keep it going.
Anyways. So we've heard the theory. These years did not exist. They were fabrications.
Right.
So what's some of the evidence?
I would love to hear some.
One, the church at the time had forged important documents before.
Okay.
And I think that's largely due to the fact that the population couldn't read or write.
So they got away with a lot.
So they were a really easy target.
Yeah.
Like, they have a whole country full of illiterate people.
I mean, maybe.
We'll see.
A whole country of illiterate people is pretty easy to just say, oh yeah, this is what it says.
Right, yeah. Like, it's easy to flip people.
It says you have to give me money? Oh, interesting.
Or else you're going to hell? Okay.
Alright. I don't know the rules.
I guess you're right. I guess that is what the Bible says.
Everyone has to give me $700?
I guess. Okay.
I mean, I guess you gotta do it. I wish it didn't.
I don't make the rules.
Believe me, I'm on your side here.
So, the church had forged documents before.
Yeah.
This isn't, really shocking to anyone. There was a lot of corruption in the church.
This is such a stupid reason, too, though.
What do you mean?
This is such a stupid reason to forge, I guess, the history of 300 years. Just so that King, whatever his name is, I forgot.
Otto the Third.
Otto the Third could rule in the new millennium.
The Holy Roman Emperor. He wasn't a king, he was an emperor.
Anyway, it's basically the same thing. It is.
Okay, I guess it's the same thing.
But anyway, that's a stupid reason.
Yeah, it's dumb.
So dumb.
Yeah, I agree. Another bit of evidence is that there is really not that many records from the time period. In fact, there's not really
nothing interesting happened.
I mean, there's not
or
really...
maybe they were destroyed.
Maybe. There's not really a ton of archaeological evidence from this time period either. And there is a gap from 650 to 910 in regards to archaeological evidence, including settlements or human remains from that time period. My thing is, like I said, the population was mostly illiterate.
Mm-hmm.
So who's going to write down the records?
Well, the church. Isn't that kind of the idea?
The idea is that the people can't write. No one's writing down evidence or anything, so the church is just making this up.
I still think it's stupid.
Well, we'll get into your thoughts later.
I want to get into them now.
Another thing is that there's no reported change in church doctrine during that time period, specifically regarding the concept of purgatory.
Okay.
So apparently, the idea...
Was that a hot topic back then?
I guess. Apparently, the concept of purgatory had some evolution in different time periods, and then it stopped for those 300 years, and then it kept changing. But to me, that doesn't really, seem that weird. I think in watching all of my historical dramas that we all know are basically a biography.
Yeah.
Rest in peace? No, I'm just kidding. Rest in peace, Francis.
Oh my gosh, no.
But the leaders of the church didn't really seem to want to make changes to church doctrine. Even I'm watching The Great right now, which is only okay. But I'm watching The Great right now, and
it's not great.
No, The Great is not that great. Elle Fanning is a delight, but it's not that great. And they have the Archbishop of Russia, and they would suggest changes that really don't mean anything, and he'd be like, "That's spitting in the face of God." Any change, she's like, "Well, what if we inoculated people against smallpox?" And he's like, no, that's against God. We can't do that. And she's like, every other country's doing it. And he's like, no, not in Russia. We're not doing that. So I'm not really surprised, because the thing is, I feel like a lot of times church doctrine doesn't change. There are certain doctrinal things that you would expect to not change very much.
Yeah.
And I think that, especially in this time period where, the church had so much power, I wouldn't expect them to be more lax on things like purgatory, because that was part of the way that they ruled, was through fear.
Right.
Do what we say, or else you're going to go to hell.
Do what we say, or do what we say. There's no option.
Do what we say, or else you're damned to hell, and so is your whole family. Another piece of evidence is that Europe in the 10th century was full of Roman architecture and art, which doesn't make sense, considering the Roman Empire fell in 475 AD, so why would the area continue to have all the remnants of that empire? Why was there no technological advancements or progress for that whole 300-year period? And no scientific advancements were made during that time. And there was also a list that was found by Illig that discussed all of the structures that had been built during that 300-year period, but when he went to investigate this further, he found that about 97% of the structures listed did not exist anymore, and he concluded that the list was essentially a forgery. The thing is, there's a lot of Roman architecture that's still around now.
Yeah.
The thing is, they were very good craftsmen.
Yeah, we like to keep that kind of stuff because it's fun to look at.
It's fun to look at, and there's a reason that the Roman stuff is still around today, is because
art is still being found.
Yes, it was well constructed.
Yeah.
And I think that the Roman Empire was way more technologically advanced than even some of the civilizations that came after them.
Right.
And I think that when they fell, a lot of civilizations kind of regressed.
Right.
And so it wouldn't be surprising that these people who are not technologically advanced are building civilizations, building homes, and then they're just getting destroyed a couple years later when something better comes out.
Yeah.
Like, that's not surprising to me.
Right.
So,
makes sense.
There's that. And in regards to this list, and whether or not they existed or not, I mean, that's, to me, I'm like, I mean, how many old houses get torn down all the time? Like, fire was a big thing.
Fire's still a big thing.
Fire is still a big thing. It doesn't, I don't know.
Fire's been around for a while.
I would say fire's been around since the beginning. I would wager to say that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Fire's pretty old.
Fire's pretty old. So what do you think of that bit of evidence?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to get into the calendar confusion. Okay. Hang with me here. We're going to kind of be in for a little bit of a bumpy ride. Strap in. Put your seatbelts on. Hang on. Okay. The Earth rotates 365.24219 times each year.
Right.
So this is just rounded to make it 365.25, which accounts for why we have
leap year every
365 days and then a leap year, which is an extra year or an extra day every 4 years. That makes sense because I never knew why we did leap years.
You didn't?
No, I was like, this is dumb.
You just thought we did it for no reason.
I knew there was probably a reason. I just didn't know why.
Huh.
I was just like,
I always knew the reason.
This is stupid.
The first time leap year was explained to me, they told me the reason.
Who explained it to you?
I'm pretty sure we learned about it in school when they were like on a leap year. They're like,
I do not
this
remember
is why
talking
we have
about
leap
that.
year.
I remember watching the Zapruder film in school, and I don't remember learning about leap
I remember
years.
watching the Zapruder film in school too, though.
I was like always confused. I thought it was just like a weird thing that we did. And I also thought that only Americans did it.
Wow.
For a long time, I didn't think that the whole world did it. I just thought Americans did it. I was like, why
your
are we
American
like this?
bias is showing.
No, my lack of paying attention to that kind of stuff in class is showing. However, since we rounded up, remember we rounded up?
Right.
We have a discrepancy of about 0.0781. Now, that little discrepancy adds up to equal 1 whole day every 128 years. So we should be doing another leap year. Another leap day.
We should be doing 2 leap days?
And this one is only 128 years.
Oh, every 128 years
Yeah,
we should have 2
someone should
leap
get on
days.
keeping track of that. So in 45 BC, the Julian calendar comes out. The Julian calendar does not account for this discrepancy. It was created by King Julius of the Roman Empire in order to have a consistent timekeeping method for all of his territory as it grew. And it was made to make each year one solar year.
Right.
So the Julian calendar is what was used up until 1582 AD. So in 1582 AD, the Gregorian calendar comes out, and it takes into account this discrepancy. So between the introduction of the Julian calendar and the Gregorian calendar, we have 1,627 years. So if you divide 1,627 by 128, you have 13, which is how many days the Julian calendar should have been off by.
So basically 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Instead, the Julian calendar was only off by 10 days. So that leaves about 300 years unaccounted for.
What?
The question is, where are these 300 years?
Wait, how does that leave 300 years unaccounted for?
Because
You lost me.
Okay, so
If it was off by, it's supposed to be off by 14 days?
13 days.
13 days, and it's off by 10.
10.
So I feel like you're only missing 3 days.
So remember, one of these days happens every 128 years.
Yeah.
So 128 times 3,
I don't know what that is.
it's more than 300. But I said it's approximately 300 to 400. So 3 days equals 128 times, or 128 plus.
Okay. I guess I think I'm following now.
So
I don't want to do math.
We're done with the math, Ethan. It's
Okay,
okay. We're done with
good.
the math. So Illig suggests that the loss of these 3 days was not a mistake, but that it was purposefully done by Pope Gregory at the time because he knew about the change done centuries prior. He knew about the cover-up, and he was wanting to help cover up what they had done.
How does that help cover it up?
Because
If it's not off, if the accuracy...
if it was off, then the year would be different. So if he actually said, oh, it's off by these 3 days, we need to fix it, then he would be recognizing that the year would be different.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm following now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I got lost, but I'm back.
So apparently, this is kind of to counteract that. The Gregorian calendar wasn't meant to go back to 45 AD. It was meant to go to 45 BC. But instead, it was supposed to go back to 325 AD when the Council of Nicaea met to discuss, I put calendar things.
Calendar stuff.
I was confused by that, so I was like, calendar things.
Yeah, makes sense.
And that would accommodate for the missing 300 years.
Okay.
So there's that.
That's problem solved.
The problem is,
No, not problem
Christian, Jews, and Byzantines all produced new calendars at around the same time in the 10th century, which would mean they were
solved. New calendar drop.
which would mean they were all in cahoots together.
Ah, they're all in cahoots.
That is one of my favorite words, is cahoots. So that's an issue, is that they were in cahoots. Well, how do people communicate in that time period? They didn't just go like,
Raven. By Raven.
hey girl, we're about to change the calendar to cover up something you want to do with
They
us.
communicated by Raven.
Via Raven. Okay, that makes sense.
Or Messenger Boy.
Messenger boy. You'd be like, hey boy, run all the way to the Byzantine
Oh, yeah.
Empire.
You just find somebody that looks like they can run fast. You're like, hey, go.
I'll see you in 3 months when you come back.
Yep.
Basically.
Things move fast.
So
That's what they called email.
an email.
Because he was a male and he was delivering an envelope. Email is spelled with M-A-L.
Oh my gosh. So now we talked about the evidence for. Now we're going to talk about the evidence against.
All right, I'm down.
There is still some archaeological evidence from this time period, not a lot, but there is some that has been confirmed to be from this time via technologies such as carbon dating.
And if this time frame never existed,
Then
there would be zero evidence.
Then the carbon dating, that would say the carbon dating was wrong.
Right.
Another big one is that Muslim and Chinese calendars do not support this theory. So their record keeping has been considered to be pretty accurate over the years, and theirs lines up with our current timeline, which includes the Dark Ages.
Okay.
If this time period was fabricated, this would include some pretty significant events and people in Islamic history, including the life of Muhammad and the growth of the Islamic Empire. So if they were in cahoots to make this up, then they would not have had Muhammad and they would not have had the Islamic Empire. Those would all be fabricated as well.
Interesting.
And that's pretty significant.
Interesting.
However, Illig suggests that Otto was able to get Arab rulers from the time period to add years onto their history and record keeping, as well as events, in order to corroborate his version of events.
Hey, yo, don't you also want to rule in the new millennium?
That's what I'm saying. But my question
That's
is,
what I'm saying.
like, why would they do that for him? I think they both kind of had the goal of expanding their empire. So I don't think that they would, like,
That doesn't help.
meet up to be
Yeah.
like, hey, let's be besties and change the calendar together.
No.
And I just don't know what motive they would have to help him create this huge ruse.
Right.
And especially if that would result in them fabricating such a huge part of their history and religion.
Huh?
It doesn't make sense. Another piece of evidence against is astrological events that we have record of that we know happened during this time period. There are certain astrological events that happen in patterns and consistently at certain points in history, and they are recorded in the history that is supposedly missing. So an example would be Halley's Comet. Or other solar eclipses that are recorded in historic documents prior to, during, and after the Dark Ages. And these are also documented in historical artifacts from the Tang Dynasty of China, confirming that they occurred at the reported time.
Okay.
So, if these times were made up, then we wouldn't have had the record of those astrological events. So the question is, why were there no records from this time period? And we can kind of agree that the Dark Ages were, I would say, pretty chaotic. We have a very low level of literacy, a high level of disease, really low life expectancy, a lot of war, and, strife that was created with the Roman Empire falling, and kind of the turf war that ensued there. And I'm just thinking the common person had more important things to worry about than record keeping. Like, for everyone, even the royals and the elites, the most important priority was not getting the plague and dying.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty big priority.
People lived to be 30 back then. So, and they worked really hard, and there was a lot of, political strife. So it doesn't.
And a lot of people died because of the plagues.
Yeah,
and other things.
Every time the plague would come through, a third of the population would die.
Yeah, that would slow down things.
Yeah. It makes sense to me that there's not a lot of... that people didn't sit down and write. It's just today sucked. Yesterday sucked. Everything sucks. Everyone in my village is dead. So this is also more of a practical, piece of evidence against, but it's food for thought. So the whole point behind this was apparently so that Otto could rule in the new millennium. However, it's reported that when they jumped forward, they only jumped to the year 911.
Right.
So if this was the case, either Illig was correct or they miscalculated, because there's no way Otto would have lived long enough.
When did he die?
Well, he wouldn't... if he jumped to 911, he wouldn't be able to live long enough to rule into the year 1000.
Right.
That would have been 89 years.
Yeah.
On top of his age, that he already was. And I'm assuming that that's significantly longer than the life expectancy at that time. It's Otto the Third.
Oh. Otto the Third? Well, it says Otto the First. Hold on. This says that Otto the Third was born in 980.
Let me see.
And died 1002. So he wasn't even born when the supposed... or I guess he was born by the time... No, he wasn't born when the supposed jump happened.
Mm-hmm.
And Herman says Otto the Third?
Herbert. Herman?
Herbert says that it was Otto the Third?
Yeah.
How is this possible then?
I don't know.
If he wasn't even alive when the jump happened.
I spelled hypothesis super wrong. Yeah, it was Otto the Third.
That makes no sense. No
Pope
sense.
Sylvester, Otto the Third, and Constantine.
Otto the First was born in 912.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe if they're saying that they they would have had to have rewrote history. So if Otto the Third did this, they would have had to rewrite history and change the birth and death of his father and grandfather. And then a bunch adding all that other stuff. That adds so much more work, because then they have to go and change their own history. You know?
Mm-hmm.
This is so dumb.
Oh my gosh,
That makes
Charlemagne
me-
had so many freaking kids.
That makes me stop looking at that.
Sorry. He
That
had
makes
a
me-
lot of
but
kids.
that makes me like even. I mean, not like I ever believed this for a second anyway. But that makes me even more skeptical. I'm like, this. The timeline doesn't even add up.
Yeah. I don't know. As I'm sure you can probably imagine, this theory is not very popular among historians. I would say it's pretty much rejected. Widespread.
I would also say my main thought with this is even if this is true, who cares? What does it change? It doesn't change anything. It changes a little bit of history, but honestly, it doesn't matter. This
Hot
is such
take.
an inconsequential conspiracy.
Hot take.
I don't know if that is a hot take. What are we gonna decide to like change if we all of a sudden find out this is true? Do you think we're gonna be like, oh well, I guess we gotta change it. It's not 2020 anymore. Now it's
not 2020.
I know it's 2021, but I was okay. It's not 2021 anymore. It's actually 1970.
1724.
I mean 1721.
1724.
Whatever. Anyway, the point I was trying to make is no, we're not gonna do that. We're just like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2021.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
With an asterisk.
Yeah.
No, but I don't believe that. I don't buy it.
Yeah,
Makes
I think
no sense.
it's definitely an interesting theory.
Is it a good theory?
No, but it's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
If
I ever become president, I'm just gonna say, hey, I want to rule in the year 3000. Let's
the Jonas Brothers said it'd be cool, so.
Well, they said everyone lived underwater.
Oh, that's actually very scary.
Yeah, you're afraid of water.
That's very scary. Yeah, I think that the main bit of evidence is that there's no evidence, which isn't.
That does not make.
That's not evidence.
No.
That's not to say there's no evidence. So therefore, this is that doesn't make sense.
Well, there's no reason this isn't true.
But I'm just like, well, yeah, there wasn't much going on. It was the Dark Ages.
And everyone was dying.
It wasn't called the Enlightened Ages. It was called the Dark Ages for a reason. It was dark. Everyone was dying.
Anyway.
People are dying, Cam. Anyways. So as we wind down, of course, we always want to know, what do you
think?
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I stole it from you.
I don't like that. Let us know your thoughts. We always love hearing what you guys think. Do you think that this is the year 1724?
No, I don't.
I'm not asking you. I'm asking
I don't.
do you think it's the year 3000?
It's definitely not that.
What year do you think it
We're not living
is?
underwater.
Yeah, let us know. Why?
Your great-great-great-granddaughter is not doing fine.
Anyways, let us know your thoughts. We'll be back in 2 weeks on YouTube.
On Halloween.
On Halloween, the best day of the year.
Ooh.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye.